Hey everyone, this is a tutorial on how to use your sewing machine, what all the functions do, how to get started. Definitely geared towards somebody who is just starting out in sewing or maybe somebody in need of a refresher. So if you find yourself in either of those categories, please keep watching. Okay, so what we're going to cover in this video are the functions of your machine, step by step on how to use them, threading your bobbin, threading your needle, and just basic sewing. I'll have timestamps below in the description box if you want to jump ahead to a specific section of the tutorial. I'm also going to have a whole separate video just dedicated to tension issues because I had some requests for that. Okay guys, I also have to say this can come off as a super overwhelming video. There's a lot of information to take in, especially if you're just getting started. But just sit down with your machine, let's go through it step by step. You can rewind as many times as you need to, and you can totally sew. So here we go. So when you first take your sewing machine out of the box, this cord will be separate from the machine. You're gonna just go ahead and take it out of the plastic, plug the little adapter right here that matches to the side of your sewing machine in. The foot pedal can go on the floor, and then plug in your sewing machine so that it can receive power. I should also say I have a Singer Promise too. This is $89.99 on the Singer website. I bought mine at Target. It has not steered me wrong. It's definitely one of the cheaper sewing machines you can buy, and it was really perfect for me when I was first starting out. Okay, right above where you plugged in that adapter cord is the power button. Sorry guys, I'm not a great filmer. This is kind of cut off here and it happens throughout the video, but that power button, you're gonna just switch on and it'll turn on a light within your sewing machine, and it also makes it so that obviously the sewing machine has power and you can get started. This part right here, your foot pedal, once it's plugged in and turned on, once you start using the foot pedal, that will control your needle. The lighter you press on your foot pedal, the slower your needle will go. The harder you press, the faster it'll go. You really don't want to be pedal to the metal when it comes to your foot pedal. It can get a little crazy. Things go out of control, especially when you're just starting. Just press lightly on it and your needle will move at a nice pace. You can control your fabric. It'll be a lot easier than going too fast. I should also mention there's no thread in this right now. I'm just going over what each section will do. If you want to jump right to the threading part, then go ahead and check out the timestamps in the description box. Okay, so this is the presser foot lever. Pushing this down will push your presser foot down, and your presser foot is right under your needle right here. Okay, so when you push this lever down, presser foot goes down, and basically what it does is just clamps down on whatever material you're sewing so it doesn't move anywhere. You always want the presser foot down while you're actually sewing, and I'm going to show you why. So I put this piece of fabric under here. I'm going to push the lever down, and you see if I tug on it, the material's not going anywhere. And once you start sewing, your material will automatically start moving, and I'll show you how that happens in a minute. But you don't want it to be presser foot up and the material shifting around all over the place. You definitely want that presser foot down. And these right here are the feed dogs. I always want to call them dog feeds, but they're the feed dogs, and that is what moves your material forward as you're sewing. Your hands can kind of guide the material, but this is what really pushes it forward so that you can stitch. Okay, so let's watch the feed dogs at work. I'm just gonna put this under the presser foot down right here. There's no thread. I'm just putting power by pushing on my foot lever, and see how the material's just sliding through. That's what the feed dogs are doing. I almost said dog feeds again. Okay, moving on. This is the spool pin, and this is where your spool of thread will sit. Okay, so it's going to sit here. This, I don't know the actual term for this, to be completely honest with you. I would just call it a thread guide. Right here it shows you the different uses for it, which we'll get to later when threading. And then this is also part of your thread guide, but your thread will go down throughout this area right here and then hook over the thread take up. So that's basically keeping your thread in line as you sew. So for my machine, this little knob right here controls the stitch length. So I can have a really small stitch, almost nothing, go all the way down to a really long stitch. And then I also have this little guide on mine that kind of shows me like the perfect stitch for my machine. So I usually keep mine between 3 and 4. This knob right here is the type of stitch you're going to have. This you could also call the stitch regulator, and this determines what kind of stitch you're going to have. Are you going to have a zigzag stitch? Are you going to have a straight stitch? You can choose whichever stitch you want happening right here on this knob. As a beginner, you're just going to want to start off with a straight stitch. This right here is the reverse stitch lever, and it helps you lock your stitches in place, which I can show you how to do later on. Okay, moving over to the bobbin winder. And this is how we thread our bobbin right here, which check the timestamp if you want to learn how to do that. I'm going to do that here shortly. Then just on the side right here is the hand wheel or the balance wheel, and you only want to twist it counterclockwise, so towards yourself, and this helps control your needle just like your foot pedal does. As you turn it, your needle will move up and down just as if you're pushing the foot pedal, but a lot slower. I should add it also controls your bobbin, but since we haven't gotten there yet, I figured just saying needle helps you understand a little bit better. Okay, moving on to the arm of your machine. This part for mine actually pulls out, so I can sew something a little closer right here depending on the length I needed. And then when you open it up, this is where you'll find your bobbin case. This little metal thing right here. That was the bobbin case, and then we're gonna have the actual bobbin, which is this little plastic guy, and this is what we're going to wind with thread. Here's one that's already threaded so I can show you, and it just fits perfectly right there in your bobbin case. So then your bobbin and your bobbin case just fit nicely back into your machine. I know this is cut off, I'm sorry. I'll give you a better view of it here in a little bit. Then this little side area right here is where you can cut your threads. You just push your threads through there and it cuts at the end of sewing. I can show you how to do that here in a little bit. And then my last feature that I'm gonna show you is the little handle. So I can carry this bad boy around if I want to. Okay, let's get started on threading. This is just all-purpose thread. I bought this one at Joann's. You can get it at Walmart, any craft store, online, really wherever you want. Okay, so no matter if you're going to thread your needle first or if you have a bobbin to thread, you're always going to want to put your spool on the spool pin. And my machine came with one of these little felt circles, a couple of them actually. You put that down first, then you put your spool of thread on top of it, and it helps the spool move smoothly as the machine's going. You want to make sure your thread is pulling counterclockwise on the spool. So you see here, you can kind of see my thread and it pulls counterclockwise. I'm going to go to the thread guide since we're doing the bobbin first, and it's showing me that I need to go clockwise around that little knob, pull my thread kind of taut. I'm going to grab my bobbin, and I'm doing this really close to the camera, trying to give you a good view here, and I know it's not the best. I'm really sorry. So this is my bobbin. It has a little hole on both the top and the bottom, and my thread is actually going to go through that hole, and I'm going to start in the middle of the bobbin and thread up through one of those holes. It doesn't matter which side. So now you can see my thread is through the bobbin and coming out on the top here. Then I'm gonna go ahead and take that over to my bobbin winder. So I put it here on the bobbin winder, and then I'm going to pull the string so it's taut again. I have a lot of extra string on top because of the way I'm trying to do this and film it with one hand and no tripod, and I'm crazy. But you see how once I pull it through, you can see the string, it's nice and straight there. Then you're gonna go ahead and push the bobbin winder to the right, and that locks it in place so we're ready to wind the bobbin. I'm gonna keep holding on to that piece of string that comes out the top of the bobbin, holding on to it, and then applying pressure to the foot pedal to start winding the bobbin. And I stopped so that you could hopefully see that the string was being wound on the bobbin, but you kind of can't really tell with this gray color, sorry about that. Putting more pressure to keep winding it until it's got as much string on it as I would like. And then I'm gonna go ahead and cut this top string so that it's no longer there. I'm going to push the bobbin winder back to the left to unlock it, take it off, and then I'm just gonna cut it so that it's no longer attached to the spool thread. So now our bobbin is completely threaded, and what we need to do now is put the bobbin into the bobbin case, which is that metal part again. So I wanna make sure the thread is pointing towards me in my bobbin. I'm gonna grab the bobbin case. It has this little lever right here, and you wanna keep the lever open while you're working with the bobbin and the bobbin case together. Because what it does is helps the bobbin stay in it while the lever is open. So I just hold the lever open, and then I slide the bobbin into the case. It's a perfect fit. I have the case in my left hand and I have the bobbin in my right hand. I'm making sure that the thread is going counterclockwise in the bobbin when I put it into the bobbin case. So I have the bobbin in the bobbin case, and then you'll see right here on the side of the bobbin case, there's this little slit, and the slit goes all the way down the side to a little wider opening, and that's where my thread's gonna go. Slit down to the opening. So I'm going to take my string and I'm going to place it within that slit, follow it down, and then once it gets to that opening, you kind of tug hard and you'll hear a slight little pop as it pops into place. I'm going to do a whole nother video on tension, but this is a good tension check for your bobbin. If you can hold on to your thread and it just hangs there, doesn't really move, then you have good tension in your bobbin. Okay, I've checked the tension. I have the bobbin in correctly. I'm gonna open that little lever, hold it like that so the bobbin doesn't fall out, and then I'm going to place it with the hook part of the bobbin case facing or pointing up, and I'm gonna slide it right back in there into my machine, and then I'm gonna kind of move it around to make sure it's locked in place. See, the first time there it kind of slid, but then I checked again. It's stuck there, we're good to go. I'm gonna close this little door and my bobbin is ready. Okay, now on to threading our needle. Okay, so I'm gonna take my thread out of the thread guide that I used for the bobbin. I'm just gonna pull it slightly. It's still going counterclockwise there. Put it through this portion of the thread guide. It's gonna go down this slit. This is when I realized I didn't have my machine on, which meant that the light wasn't on. You couldn't really see what I was doing. I put it down through the thread guide. Then I also realized my thread take up wasn't up. So I went ahead and moved the hand wheel right here, turning it counterclockwise towards myself, and it moves. See that little metal part? That's the thread take up. And you want it as high up as you can get it so you can easily swoop your thread around it. So I have my take up. My thread is now going, it went down, around, and now it's coming up and around that take up right there. It goes back down. There's all these arrows on the machine to guide you. And then you're gonna hook it behind this little metal hook, which I could not do with one hand. I tried several times. I'm like, no way, not happening. There's a little hook right there. Your thread's gonna go through it. So I put my phone right up to the machine so that you can see me slide the thread behind that hook. So once your thread's around that hook, you should be able to pull on it and the thread just kind of comes through easily. You're then going to want to thread your needle, which the hole for the needle is right there at the bottom. And I threaded it off camera because I could not do it with one hand. But once you put your thread through that little hole, you should be able to just hold onto that string and pull with no resistance. If there's resistance, you're going to have tension problems and you're going to want to start over with threading the needle. Now I'm going to take my thread, guide it through that little gap in the presser foot and leave it be. So now I want to get my bobbin thread to come up as well. So I'm going to go ahead and move this hand wheel counterclockwise towards myself. That'll control the needle and the bobbin. And with my left hand, I'm going to hold on to the needle thread. So I'm going to go ahead and hold that thread as I'm turning the hand wheel towards myself to make the needle go down. And then as it starts coming back up, I'm going to gently pull on that thread right there from the needle. When the needle is all the way back up to its starting position, you're going to tug on that thread and the bobbin thread will actually pop up right there. So I'm going to go ahead and take my scissors, just kind of swipe the thread over because I can't really reach it with my hand right now. Then I'm going to pull on that and I should have two pieces of thread coming out. I'll see the needle thread and I'll see the bobbin thread. So now we have our bobbin threaded, our needle threaded, we're ready to start sewing. I've got this scrap piece of fabric. I'm gonna go ahead and pull my threads out a little bit and put them to the side so they don't get caught up in the fabric at all. Putting them back there. I'm gonna put my fabric underneath the presser foot, place it where I want it, put the presser foot down so it clamps onto my fabric, and then I'm gonna get my hands ready. I'm gonna put my right hand right below kind of where the presser foot is, and then I'm gonna put my left hand over here right on the side of the presser foot, and that's gonna really guide my material. I'll get you guys a better angle here in a minute. I'm gonna go ahead and get my hands ready, have my foot on the foot pedal, apply pressure to start my stitches. Shortly after my stitches start, I'm going to want to go ahead and push down on the reverse stitch lever. Doing this will lock my stitches in place so I can keep moving forward. Once I'm done stitching the section I want to stitch, I'll go ahead and do the reverse lever again to lock that end of stitches in place. Now everything's locked in place, I'll go ahead and lift up my presser foot. My needle was actually still down right here, so I needed to adjust that with my hand wheel so that the needle would come up. I grab my material, the strings are still attached. I swipe them above this little cutter right here and my strings cut off so that my fabric is now removed from the machine completely. Okay, so let's look what we just did here on the fabric. You can see where I started and then I pushed the reverse lever to make them go back up. Then I continued down with my stitch and then the reverse lever again. So I have my stitches on top, which came from my needle. Then I have some string left over on the bottom right here, and that's what came from my bobbin. So you'll see the thread barely because it's hard to see on both sides of the fabric, both the top and the bottom, you'll see stitches. Okay, this time I'm gonna do a different stitch and I'm also gonna give you a different view. So I have my threads. They're both right there, needle and bobbin. My presser foot is up. And then I'm gonna go ahead to this knob over here and change my style of stitch. I'm gonna go to a zigzag stitch this time. Okay, so then I'm gonna take my material, slide it under the presser foot where I want it, go ahead and put my presser foot down with that lever, and then get ready to go here. I'm gonna put pressure on my foot pedal to make it start. My zigzag stitch is gonna start going. I'm gonna press the reverse lever right here so that I can lock the stitches in place. And then go ahead and continue going forward again until I've gone as long as I wanna go with my zigzag stitch. Then I'm gonna go ahead over to the reverse lever, which really just moves those feed dogs backwards to lock the stitch in place. Now you can see my needle's still stuck through there, but I'm done. I don't want to keep sewing. So I went ahead and lifted the lever. You don't really need to lift it yet, but my needle's still stuck right there, so I can't get anything out. How I fix that is by turning the hand wheel towards myself to go ahead and move that needle back all the way up to the top in its starting position. Sorry, it's blurry. And then I can go ahead and remove my material. I'll slide it to the side. You can still see my bobbin thread and my needle thread. I'm gonna go ahead and swipe it over here around the top of this little gadget, and it'll go ahead and cut my threads for me. Okay, so let's take a look at the zigzag stitch we just did. You can see here at the top we started, then we reversed, so we locked the stitches in place, then we came all the way down, reversed again. Again, it's really hard to see this thread on the back of this material, but hopefully you get the idea. Okay, next thing you need to do is take a deep breath, because if you made it this far, you made it to the end, give yourself a pat on the back. If there's anything that I missed or anything that was confusing to you, please go ahead and leave a comment and I can definitely answer it for you there, or also make an additional video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this was helpful to someone. Go ahead and leave a comment of other sewing videos that you would like to see. If you're interested, follow us on Instagram at homebasedhome. Subscribe and like and all the things. Thanks so much, guys. I hope you have a really great day.